Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our fifth Campfire Talk. I know people are still rolling in. My name is Lovell. I am the placement manager for Black Rock City. We have a really exciting day ahead. This is our Campfire Talk focused on asking a placer anything. So before we get started, I want to share, as you can see, there's meeting guidelines up on the screen. Please keep yourselves muted. I know sometimes you can accidentally unmute yourselves. We just want to be able to get focused on the presenters and the speakers today. If you have a comment or question, please type it in chat. We have a couple people here that are kind of collecting all the questions. We may ask you to ask yourself, so you can unmute at that time. But besides that, just stick it in the chat, type it in chat, and then we will get to it. I can't promise that we're going to get through all the questions today. Last time we did this in December, we actually had a handful of questions left over, but we'll try to group together similar questions and be able to, keep it rolling. So please mute yourself, ask questions in chat. Please be respectful in your participation. We are a community here and want to make sure that we all feel safe and welcome to speak. Please be present also. You don't have to be on camera, but if you are, it'd be great to just kind of keep you focused. Speak from your own experience. Don't speak for other camps. Don't speak for other people. And like I said earlier, our chat moderators will bring your questions up during the Q&A portion of this. So I'm really excited to welcome you all today. Who you see on screen, we have AA as a part of our, the very first part of our names to help us kind of quickly identify folks. So I will go through who you see today, and you probably have met some of us over email. We obviously write through placement@burningman.com. I'm sorry, .org, not .com. I think let's get around to introducing who our panel is today. So first, I want to introduce Papa Bear. Papa, so do you want to unmute and just say hi?
Hello.
Papa Bear co-founded and co-led Revolution, which made its home in the 9 o'clock portal from 2007 to 2012. He joined placement as a volunteer in 2013, placing the 9 o'clock sector until 2019. And he just came on this year as our new placement coordinator. It's a new position. We have not had many paid staff in our history. And so it's just been a manager mainly and an admin associate, and Papa Bear's come on now to be extra hands because this is a lot of work. The rest of our team is volunteers, so I will be announcing them now. Next is Monday. Monday, you want to unmute and say hi?
Hello, I am Monday.
Monday has been on the placement team since 2018, and he's enjoyed putting camps in their place in both 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock sectors. Before he was a placer, he was a theme camp lead and village mayor in Black Rock City. So he's been a wonderful addition to our team. Governess is next. Hi, Governess.
Hello, hi everybody.
The Governess is our most long distance placer based in London, England, but she still makes it for calls like these. She has been attending Burning Man since 2003 and was lucky enough to camp with some placers that year and fell in love with what they were doing. Placement was very different in 2003. We're almost 20 years later, far fewer camps and probably far less complex. But she joined the 9 o'clock sector first in January 2007, and 2008 became the lead sector for our large scale sound sector, which is 2 o'clock and 10 o'clock. And if you're from those sectors, I know you know how wonderful she is. All right, next we have Hepkitten. Hi, Hepkitten.
Hi.
So Hepkitten started attending Burning Man in 2006. And immediately started volunteering right after that in 2007. She's also volunteered for Gate Perimeter Exodus and the Black Rock Rangers. And in her spare time, she is part of her theme camp's management team. She is maybe our most widely employed placer because she's placed 3 o'clock, 4:30, 6 o'clock, and 7:30 in past years. So she knows a pretty wide swath of the city. Next is What's It? What's It? Hi.
Hey, everybody. Good to see your shining bright faces.
What's It says, need her? You can find her in 3 o'clock headquarters. Look for the flags in 3. She leaves her ranch once per year to live in 3 o'clock and puts camps in their place, sparking amazing neighborhoods. She loves her tractor, loves fire art, and she also loves tequila art. We will move on to KGB. KGB, hi.
Hey, everybody.
All right, KGB's been volunteering for Burning Man. Oh no, you've been going to Burning Man from Atlanta since 2007. Started volunteering with Gate Perimeter Exodus prior to joining Placement, and joined Placement in 2015. He is an anthropologist who does public health research and evaluation in his default life. And he's also the lead placer for the 430 sector. And finally, we have Bravo. Hi, Bravo.
Hello, everybody.
Bravo is a longtime burner and theme camp organizer. He has been with Placement since 2012 and currently is the lead placer for 730 sector. So we have a wide swath of Black Rock City here, lots of years of experience on the Placement team. And I'm Level. I've been on the Placement team since 2014. I started burning in 2009 with a camp called Dilated People's Eye Spa, and have successively just kind of taken over more things and taken on more jobs. So I'm the placement manager for Black Rock City, and really happy to be here and see some familiar faces. I'm going to kind of scroll through, and hopefully there's people. Is there anyone here that's joining us for the first time for a campfire talk? Raise your hand if you are. Yeah, I see a couple waves. Great. Thank you all for joining us. So now we want to hear a little bit more about you, and we have a couple polls set. So Regular, can you shoot the first poll up? Great. Where are you located? Where are you calling in from? Are you from the West Coast? Are you from the US? Are you from outside the US? We want to hear from you. See a lot of West Coasters, but also at least one person from Europe. Great. All right, looks like most people have shared their locations with us. All right, we have at least one other person outside the US. This meeting is recorded, by the way, so we realize that we can't be at all places at all times for people that are awake. So this will be shared soon after this is recorded today so that other people can watch it. All right, so 72% of us are from the West Coast. Hello, West Coast. Looks like we have 7% of the crowd is from the Midwest. Hello, Midwest. We have 12 people from the East Coast and 6 from the South, and 2 people from outside the US. All right, so thanks for sharing about who you are, and continue to feel free to chat away in the chat box. So one reason we wanted to bring you all here today, outside of just asking placers all the questions that you might have, we know that there are upcoming deadlines. We've been trying to communicate really clearly with folks intentions for this year. And one of those intentions is a new program that we're calling Hubs. Maybe raise your hand or wave if you have heard of Hubs, heard a little bit about Hubs. Great, of course, the placement team has. So Hubs is an acronym called Humans Uniting for Better Sustainability. It is a resource sharing program that we're instituting and really is a new part of the placement process. In the past, you and people who are familiar with the placement process, you can request being by any other camp, and we generally try to get you close, if not actually right next door to that particular camp. But sustainability has been, probably on everyone's minds, and how do we make Burning Man less of a energy suck and less of a resource intensive thing. Obviously, it takes a lot to get out there into the middle of the desert. And we want to figure out how people can start sharing resources. Do we all really need to bring all the things? I know that there's a lot of duplication. There's people that feel like they have to bring everything that's on every single packing list. And it's wonderful because, you know, when you need that thing, it might be there, maybe your neighbor has it. But I think we want to do more this year and in coming years around getting people to talk together earlier and say, hey, maybe we both don't need to bring all those tools. Like, we can know that we'll be able to share them. Maybe we both don't need to bring, and maybe it's not both, maybe there's 3 or 4 of you that actually come together and say, instead of bringing our own generators or our own things, we can actually pool our resources together. So Hubs is a way to do that. We want to be able to encourage people to do that, not only by putting that call out, but there's several ways that you can actually hopefully meet each other. One is through Spark Classifieds. If you're not familiar with it, spark.burningman.org is a place, it's much like a Craigslist where you can post, hey, I'm looking for something, or I have something, I'm looking for someone to partner, whatever it is with. And if you go there and you use it regularly, you can see that there's already many people posting on things. Sometimes artists are posting about art projects that they're looking for people for. And then theme camps can post there too and say, you know, whether it's about your interactivity or something you're building or tools you're using or heavy equipment, you can post that up there and find each other that way. We also have a burner network new map that has been created. It is a map of theme camp listings from 2019. When you all say that you are coming from a different part of the world, Placement captures that in the questionnaire. And we have a map now where that's all sitting. So I would actually encourage you all to maybe find if there's a local theme camp around you and start conversations that way. And finally, I would actually also encourage you all that, you know, you may have gone to Black Rock City and said, hey, I had an awesome neighbor in 2019 to the side of me or behind me or across the street. If you never got their information and are interested in it, Placement can help with that. So I would email placement@burningman.org, ask us to help you find that wonderful neighbor that you remember. We aren't always going to be able to share that contact immediately because people have to give our consent or their consent to share information. But once that is sorted, we can help connect you all. So those are 3 ways to do it. And the reason we're doing this also is to try to get this early enough so that you can talk to each other before the placement questionnaire is due. We have a new form to complete. So every camp should fill out your placement questionnaire, tell us what you're planning to do, include in there that you're trying to partner with camps A, B, and C. And then we hopefully will hear the same from those same camps that you all are in on something together. And then we have a Hubs request form. We'll link that in the chat. But that is your way of telling us these are exactly the people we want to camp together. And we will ask you to submit a map according to your plans along with that. So some people have asked us, what's the difference between a village and Hubs? Kind of sounds the same. I think I've seen some chatter online about that too. We see them as really different things. One, right now, villages, everything rolls up to the mayor. The mayor, there might be 5 camps in the village. The mayor gets all the tickets and all the work access passes and has to disseminate amongst the camps. The village also has just one identity. For instance, Kidsville or Hushville or Alternative Energy Zone. They get one identity. And, you know, in all the sort of materials that we share about camps in Black Rock City, it just rolls up back to the village. Hubs is a way for camps to actually maintain their identities, also a way for camps to maintain their own control over resources like tickets and WAPs. And it lets you kind of still be your own entity while enabling us to make sure that you are connected in a physical way. So that's a little bit about hubs. If you have questions, I think that Papa Bear, some folks have been putting some links in our chat, but please always feel free to ask questions to us at placement@burningman.org. All right, that's a lot of chatter for me. I did want to try to get quickly into our Q&A session. So let's do another quick poll before we get there. So how many people are in your camp? We're kind of curious of the folks that are on this call. What are your camp sizes? See people already plugging away. Oh, yep, some folks are putting in chat too. Feel free to fill out the poll. All right, we're gonna wrap this poll up and share the results with you. Looks like we have a pretty even spread, but the most popular size in this room is the 26 to 37 size, which actually is similar to what the total camps in Black Rock City are. I would say the mean size is around 26 to 37 people, which turns out to be about 100 by 100 space, or 150 by 100. So that probably sounds familiar to you all. Thank you for sharing a little bit more about yourselves. So I talked a little bit about hubs. Before we hop into the Q&A session, I do want to remind you all about how the rest of the day is going to work. We are going to do basically Q&A by asking questions in the chat. Brady Cat here is going to help us aggregate them and serve them up to us. Please remember the guidelines that we mentioned earlier. Please be respectful. And then actually towards the end at 12:30, I'll start wrapping things up, but we're going to be opening up breakout rooms by sector. We thought that if today we can talk about hubs and share that information and talk about resource sharing, it might be nice also for you all to meet one another. Some of you may already know each other, but if you can stick around at from 12:30 to 1 Pacific time, we'll be opening up breakout rooms and you can meet your neighbors or meet a future neighbor. So stick around for that. Our placers are going to be there too and can probably answer more questions there. All right, so let's go into the Q&A. So, we talked about hubs, but we know that there is a placement deadline coming up for returning camps next Thursday. We also know that, people are just waking up and remembering how to do this thing again. So we're here at your service to answer your questions. I think I see a couple come in already. So Brady Cat, do you want to just serve them up?
Yeah. What is the level of collaboration support required for hubs? Is sharing just general or social support enough, or does it need to be material like generators or trucks?
That's a very good question. It is about material resources. So we know folks like to camp with their friends, and that is also something you can request. We do ask you to tell us the reasons why you need to be by specific camps in that form that we sent out and also through the placement questionnaire. So if you're just looking to be close to your friends or camps that you like being around, go ahead and stick that in the placement questionnaire. What we're going to prioritize and really honor though are the ones that are sharing, whether it's a generator or a shared kitchen or shared transportation, things that are trying to help better sustainability. Hubs is humans uniting to better sustainability. So if hugs and friendship leads to that, we'll think about that, but really we're looking for material things. But great question. And I think I'm gonna try to talk less. So if there is a question that any of my placers feel like we can answer, go ahead and unmute yourself and then we'll just kind of pay attention to who unmutes.
How much weight is given to partnering with other camps to share resources when choosing camps?
That's a good question too. I think we've discussed it internally. We look at camps independently based on a lot of different factors. A large part of that is thinking about your interactivity. And so part of what we're trying to do is find complementary interactivity. So hopefully you're having those discussions on your own. There may be a case where we realize that there's a really strong camp with a lot of good history, really great interactivity paired up with a camp that might not be doing as much. In those cases, that may impact where you stay. So I think we will be following up with you in that Hubs request form to say, hey, you know, if there is some discrepancy that we're seeing, we will share that with you to help you know, start a conversation with you about what's more important. Is it most important that you're stuck together? Because that might mean you get in a location that isn't your top preference, or is your preference, you know, absolutely being at a certain spot. So I see that Bravo has something to add to that, so go for it.
I was just going to say, as a think camp lead, you know, do your due diligence also, right? There's camps that are good camps that want to share resources. There might be a camp that's looking for someone to glom onto, and maybe they just want to get a better spot for camping. So make sure that you have a conversation with the other camp lead, so you both understand what you're doing, because you don't want to end up with some sort of either issue with placement or an issue being next to each other on playa.
Will placement honor 100% of village and neighbor requests?
I think we're going to try our best to. I can't promise anything at this point. We're going to have to evaluate what comes in. Part of the tricky part of our job always is how do we fit everything in together? So sometimes there's only so much space in different blocks to make things happen. What I can say is that we will be reviewing all the Hubs requests first and trying to fit them in, because we realize that some of them might be like really, you know, strange L shapes or like Z shapes or whatever you guys come up with. I think once we see that, we'll have a better sense, but it is a priority for us. So I think that, you know, we're going to do our best to make sure that those work. One other factor that is different this year than in other years, you may have forgotten this, or maybe you remember, we are guaranteeing placement for all returning theme camps and villages that are in good standing. So because of that, you will be guaranteed placement. Where you're placed, though, is going to depend on a few other factors outside of the fact that you're forming a hub. I think that you know, there might be a situation where there's not a block that's large enough for your hub in a spot that is most ideal. So we'll have to kind of relocate things. So just understand, I think everyone does respect that. They see our pieces that we're working with are Tetris pieces, and we're often trying to make things work. So just expect that this is a little bit of a learning curve for both of us, for you to, you know, try it out with your partnerships, and for us to try to make it work. And we'll definitely be in communication when we need to see if we can shift things or shape things in a way that works better for the blocks that we have. Monday, and then Hepkin.
Yeah, I just want to add that I think it's important to remember that Hubs is an experiment that we're doing this year, and we're really excited about it. But you know, feedback that we get from you after the event on how it goes and how the process was for you is going to be very helpful for us to improve it moving forward. And the other thing I would add is that depending on what location you would optimally like to be at, you should take that into consideration. If you're a plaza camp or a portal camp and you want to be in this big hub, that may affect our ability to place you in the plaza or the portal. So just consider that when you're putting everything together, you know, help us help you.
Great, thanks, Monday. Hepkin.
I would say with Hubs, yeah, like what you said, it's going to be very difficult to get onto just the general requests. But if you do really want to be next to a friend or neighbor camp, make sure that you're both requesting it in your questionnaire and that you're getting the names right of the other camp, because we take reciprocal requests a lot more serious than ones that are just like, I like that camp, I'd like to be close to them again. If you're both asking for it, we try, like, that's a higher priority than you just wanting to be next to another camp that doesn't know you, or may not know you, I should say.
Great question, though. I'm glad they're coming in about hubs to clarify this. Bradicat, you want to shoot us the next one?
Yes. How do you balance radical self-reliance and hubs? What happens if another camp drops the ball and doesn't deliver on their commitments?
Great question. Anyone from my team want to take that? I'm happy to jump into. I'll start off. I think that is a really great question. I think that we have some cultural tensions, right, around the principles. There is radical self-reliance, and then there's communal effort. And how does communal effort work when everyone's bringing their own things? And so I think I don't actually have a firm answer on it. I think that this is a conversation we have to have as a community. I think it's about how much do we want, and there are probably things that you want to bring your own of, right? Like we don't expect that everyone shares a plate with each other, but there are also things that we can think about can be shared. If there is one of the challenges for our fuel program, for instance, is trying to fill up many little generators or many little fuel tanks across the city, and which takes time every time they stop and every time they fuel up. If that was consolidated, it would go a lot faster and actually is safer to kind of pull. So I actually think that rather than us saying, here are the ways that, this is weighed more heavily than the other, that it's part of the tension about going to Burning Man and doing Black Rock City. And I think we've seen really great radical self-reliance. And maybe what we're saying is, let's also think a little bit more about what is communal effort around this stuff, because radical self-reliance is fantastic. And we should rely on our own resources. But so much of what we can do is shared too. There's a lot of things I know that we hear about people that feel like, I built a whole palace, I built a whole camp, and no one's coming to my stage because they also built a stage across the street and they built another stage right around the corner. Do we need that many stages? Do we need that many, name that thing? And I think that's the best way I can answer that question at this point. Placers, anyone else have anything to say about this? Okay. But I think, please, have those conversations through the different groups that exist, because again, like Monday was saying, this is an experiment. So we want to hear, like, wait a minute, actually that camp wasn't able to build their thing on time because they were counting on that other camp. I guess the other thing that I'm thinking of now is realize that actually, your hub might be the place you go first, but there's a whole city out there and we can help facilitate that once we're out there. If you really do, something breaks, something gets lost, something doesn't work, we're here to help facilitate also people trying to meet each other. I've done that several times where, people expect Heat to come and Heat is really busy building lots of art and they don't come. And, we turn out like, it turns out that on the other side of the city, there is an auger that someone else can lend. And so please do know that, part of this isn't just saying you figure it all out to share with each other. I think we really want to be here to help facilitate that as a placement team.
And I'm seeing a lot of questions about interactivity. So to start us off, is there guidance how you assess the level of interactivity compared to the number of campers or camp foot square size? Can you share target examples?
I think a placer could answer this one. Monday.
Yeah, I saw a lot of questions coming in about this and about interactivity and about like interactivity for plazas and portals. So we actually changed the website and what our guidance was about this, because it used to be very prescriptive. It used to say if you wanted to be on X location, you needed to do X number of hours of interactivity. And as some of you may recall from the great before times, this was an issue because camps would feel like y'all needed to do more in order to get placed in the place that you wanted to be. And that's kind of unsustainable at a certain point. And we see a lot of burnout from the placement department. We see a lot of burnout in theme camp leads because you're all trying to do so much more than the person next to you in a way. So we've removed that. So there is no like X number that we have. Generally, what we do is we judge your amount of interactivity compared to a camp of a similar population. That changes a little bit depending on where you would really like to be. Like if you're dead set on being in a portal and you tell us that, then we're gonna ask that you do a little bit more than if you were gonna be on a street, if that makes any sense. So I guess the answer is there's no like formula that we can give you. And I think that would honestly, personally, philosophically be bad for Burning Man. So we're just saying, think about the camps that you go visit and the camps that you love. What do they do? How big are they? And try to be like, do we want to kind of be like that and be in that location? Do we want to do a little bit less and be on a street? I mean, there's no one answer. Do what makes you unique and beautiful and bring that. That's really what we're looking for.
Great answer. I'll take what's it then Hepkin.
Yeah, I'd also like to encourage you to, instead of looking at total hours, look at the weirdness factor. This is one of the few places in your life where you can bring your weirdest weird, and we are going to love that. For example, we've had somebody build a claw machine that can pick up people. Dude, the weirdness factor on that is fantastic. Okay, bring your weird. Also run it a lot during the week if you want to be like on a portal or Esplanade, but bring the weird. The weird makes the entire placement team stand up and take notice. So do it, get weird, bring it.
Get weird, Hepkin.
So first I would say, like Monday said, we did redo the criteria at the end of 2019. And we did redo the things on the website so that you can look and see what we're looking for places like streets and plazas and Esplanade. They're all different levels of interactivity, obviously. One of the things we are trying to stress more this year is definitely, as what's it said, the unique or the weird. Or if you're doing something that's common, do it really, really well. So like if you've got a bar, I love bars. It's one of my favorite things on Playa. Don't take this the wrong way, like I don't want bars. But if you do it really well, we're gonna look at that faster and place that camp faster than a camp that's just like, oh, I've got Playa Punch, because everybody does Playa Punch, right? The other thing is to think about is, because I've seen it going through the questions here on the chat, that think about your population and think about your interactivity. So if you have when we're looking at this, we're looking at like, you've got 20 people. Are those people involved in your interactivity, or do you have 3 people doing your interactivity and you have a bunch of other people doing, I don't know what, like we don't know because we can't tell from your questionnaire. So when we're looking at it, we're like, okay, is it reasonable to expect these people to do this much in their camp, to do things in their camp and still actually go to Burning Man? We don't expect you to be locked in your camp 24/7 to do your theme camp, but are you saying that you have to do at least 1 shift for every person for your interactivity? I mean, I'm probably worse than everybody out there because I'm like really strict about this kind of stuff, because for me in my camp, I do placement, then I volunteer for gate during event week, and I still do 2 events for my theme camp. So my thinking is always, for me, like if I can do that, then the people who are just coming to Burning Man can do 2 events for our theme camp. Like that's not a stretch. So, I mean, I know I'm crazy and I do a lot, but and that's not the standard by any stretch of the imagination. But just think of that. Like, are people actually participating in your interactivity, or are they laying back and doing nothing?
Thanks, Heb. Bravo, and then I'll take governess.
Yeah, exactly what Hepkitten's saying there. You know, we place theme camp. Theme camps to us are a group of people that want to come together and give something to the city, right? Not 3 people out of the camp that want to come and give things to the city. It's everybody. You're all part of that group and want to deliver that thing. So looking, you know, not everybody needs to do 2 events. Maybe in your camp people do 5 events, but you know, use that as a barometer. If you have 10 people in your camp and say, all right, if everybody did 2 events, you know, scheduled events, we'll say, right? Because there's passive stuff and other things that happen all the time. But if 2 people did 2 events, what would that look like? How many things would you do? If you had 30 people in your camp, what would that look like, right? And then just use that as a test against what you're currently doing. Are you doing enough? Are you not doing enough? It's not a hard, fast number, but it's nice to have some sort of thing to look at. We have camps that are like, oh, we're gonna do this one big event. on Wednesday, and it's going to be fabulous, and we have 50 people in the camp, and that's all they do. So the rest of the time they're out playing in at Burning Man, having fun, which is great, but they aren't really doing what they said they were. They're doing one event and then they're going off to play. So they're not really bringing something with their theme camp to give to the city. So think about that. Very important.
Thanks, Bravo. Governess.
Sorry, couldn't find the mute. So what everybody said, and there's also, I saw some questions coming through about what if I've got a mutant vehicle or a March support and stuff like that. And we do take into account, you've got a mutant vehicle that needs, X number of people to support that. We don't count those people towards what we're looking for the ones that we're expecting to participate in interactivity. So we do look at all of the detail and all of the detail that you give us, and the detail is really, really important. So we can assess it properly. We're able to do that because, we've all had camps that have, a different, art support, volunteers, staff people, blah, blah, blah. And we take into account what, if most of your camp is working in your interactivity and 20% are doing their mutant vehicle camp, then, that's what we take into account. So I'm just going to post it into the chat, our place camp types, because it gives you a good indication of what we're looking for.
Thanks, Governess.
Mhm.
Yeah, the last thing I'll add, and I think we can take, let's go on to more questions, is that I encourage folks to think about your own experience in Black Rock City when you're walking around. Like, what do you experience when you're going down an avenue, right? If you're on 3 o'clock or 4:30 or 7:30 or 9, how does that feel? And is that the feel of your camp? Or are you more of like a G Street camp? Or are you more of an Esplanade camp, right? There's different things that we are sort of hoping to create in terms of the experience as we lay out the city. And so what we're looking for isn't necessarily like just a number of hours and a number of anything. What we're trying to do is build an experience. And so sometimes that means a little guy might be on Esplanade, and sometimes that means a big guy might be in the back of the city, but that's because there's an experience that we're trying to build. And so we can explain more about that if folks have questions. But I think I really like Monday's initial point of just like, you do you. Don't try to, everyone should have stretch goals, but what are you really good at and what can you really pull off without going bonkers and burning yourself out? And I think that we really respect people that are honest about what they can do and can actually pull it off. Hepkitten, and then let's take a new question after that.
Sorry, you just brought up something that I think is really, really important, that you guys should be doing what you do best and not doing what you think we'll like best. Like, it's not about us, it's all about you. So if it's something that you enjoy, dive all into that thing. And if it's weird and wacky and wonderful, all the better. But if it's like you're a yoga person or a bar person, like, do it as the best you possibly can, and like, we'll appreciate your enthusiasm and passion for that thing.
Thanks, Seb. Hopefully that's punctuated for people. All right, Brady Cat, let's take another question.
We are a returning theme camp, and this year our campmates have a mutant vehicle we plan on incorporating into our interactivity. Do we still fill out the questionnaire as a theme camp and not a mutant vehicle support camp?
Governance.
I think I can answer that. Let me know if I'm wrong, but I think, so it depends on what you think your camp does the most of. If you think you're mostly mutant vehicle and 90, 70, 60% of your camp is doing on the mutant vehicle, then you're a mutant vehicle camp. If you think 60, 70% of your camp is doing interactivity in your camp, then you're a theme camp. So it's, you've got to kind of assess it that way.
Yeah, I would assess it that way. And also we do have size limits on mutant vehicle camps, because what we're really trying to house for those mutant vehicles is the crew and their like +1s to be able to support that mutant vehicle. So I think look through the placement criteria. There are plenty of theme camps out there that do house mutant vehicles, and mutant vehicles aren't all the same size, shape, and capacity. So we know that, yeah, you might just have a small mutant vehicle in your camp, And so that's probably most likely going to be fit into a theme camp that's larger. It really depends. I would say if you have a really specific question about your specific camp, please email placement@burningman.org. Write the name of your camp if you're existing, put the sector down in the subject line. We'll get back to you because we can better assess at that point. But yeah, I think generally speaking, that's kind of the response of what Governess and I said. Let's take another question.
Danny is curious to know if there is a guesstimate as to how many new camps will be placed. In the past years, what has been the average number of new camps placed?
That is a great question. I don't have that number off the top of my head. I will say that from 2018 to 2019, we had about 250 camp jump in the number of camps that applied for placement. I don't remember the percentage of that. That was probably somewhere in the ballpark of like a 10% increase. We are at our limit really as a city for population for a long time, but we're starting to get there for placement. When in 2019, you may have heard this in a previous Campfire Talk, but we placed 90 to 91% of Black Rock City. And that squeezed out open campers. That's made people think you need to join a theme camp to go to Burning Man, and that's not the case. And we want to make sure that remains not the case. So there is a limit. I can't say that we're a lot of this is like us seeing what the demand is and trying to adjust the city. We actually have increased a little bit of camping space in Black Rock City by making a lot of the blocks deeper this coming year. So we're trying our best to accommodate, but we also don't want to move into a system where everyone needs to apply to placement in order to get to Black Rock City and to actually participate. So I don't know, is it going to be another 10% jump? We had 1,200 theme camps in 2019. Another 10% jump would be 120 camps. That is possible. And I think we're trying to face how to manage that. We do intend on placing new camps, we always do, but the number I can't really say until we see what the demand is. What's it? And then Bravo.
Hi, and I'd like, if you're thinking about being a new camp, I really want to encourage you, think small. It's great if you want to do a really big camp, but I'm here to tell you that placement team loves little 50-foot by 100-foot, 50-foot by 50-foot camps. We adore you. You're easy to place. We can put you in the little nooks and crannies everywhere. Look at everybody clapping from the placement team. That's how much we love you when you are a little bitty camp. We adore little bitty camps. So if you're coming in as a new camp, don't be afraid to think, oh, if I only ask for 50 by 50, they're going to think I'm not a serious little camp. They're not going to think I'm bringing it. We are going to think you're bringing it, and we are going to love you for staying small.
Great, and 50 by 50 is somewhere from 3 to 6 campers. 50 by 100 is about 6 to 12 campers by our estimates. So just so you know what they're looking at. Bravo and Governess.
Yeah, this year's a little bit different because of the pandemic and all, right? We're guaranteeing all the camps that would have been placed, I think it was in 2020, will be placed this year. So we have that guarantee. But typically in our placement process, a new camp doesn't necessarily wait for all the existing camps to get placed first, right? So if there's any thought on that they come last, that's not the case. If you are a new camp, like what's it said, being smaller is better, right? It's easier to place. Also being very clear on what you want to do and explaining there is very important for us to understand. And just showing us the passion, show us what you really want to do and generate some excitement around it. We get super excited as we're looking through all the questionnaires. There's all sorts of fun stuff going on. And we come across new camps all the time where it's like, wow, that's really neat. It's something we haven't seen before. Or these people you can tell are really invested in what they want to do, which generates excitement in us as well. So don't think, I know there's like other regional events and stuff like that where it's very hard to get in as a new camp. That's not the case with Burning Man. Right, just make sure you're very clear when you're filling out your questionnaire.
Thanks, Bravo. Governess.
I think the thing that I wanted to add, because yes, what's it? 100% correct, Bravo as well. And we freak out when we see a brand new camp that's never been placed before that are 100, 200, 300 people. it just, we know enough, it strikes fear into our heart that, because it's a hard thing to do out there. It seems like it's, oh, it's just Burning Man, it's gonna be fine, blah. But I personally have seen so many camps that decide to be brand new and be that big, and unfortunately just can't pull it off. So starting small and then building up is, I have to say, probably the best way to go.
Thanks, Governess.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think one thing we do notice is we do kind of keep track of who the sort of life cycle of camps. We know that new camps also form with really experienced burners. And so, just know that new camps doesn't mean people that have never been to Burning Man. We do realize. And I think part of that is the story that you help share with us in your questionnaire by contacting us through email to say, hey, I used to be part of this longstanding camp, but I'm kind of moving on. Those are things we do factor in as well in a regular year. All right, let's take another question.
What has changed for the roles of placers between 2019 and 2020? How have these changes been in support of BM's project's cultural goals?
I'm curious how a placer would say that. Head kitten.
Well, we've forgotten a lot. It's been 2 years. But really, one of the big changes for our team is that our team's expanded a lot. It was meant for 2020, and we've had a lot of people on our team that were coming on board for 2020 that now are actually getting their first burn, hopefully, knock wood.
Have you muted yourself when you knocked on wood?
Talent. We have a lot more staff so that we can have a more personal touch to theme camps so that you guys can get to know us a little bit better. We have more staff that can support us in things like looking for sustainability and for mapping problems and for just general admin support. So all of that stuff is taking us closer to the CDS goals of actually having like a bigger touch with camps so that you can get to know us better, and it's not just us putting out fires, but us actually being able to reach out on things that like, hey, you had this in your questionnaire and either I don't understand it or like it's not clear, or it's like, if you did this, like tweaked it just a teeny bit, then like did 1 extra hour or something, then it would be better for your camp in general. We're going to be able to do more of that because we have a bigger team. So we have more people who can actually handle the load of all the emails we get, because I think it's fairly well known now, but we're a really small team for all the theme camps that we handle. So even every extra one person who joins the team makes a huge difference to how much we can serve you guys and get you the things that you need to provide the interactivity that you're planning on bringing.
Thanks, Hep. The one thing I'll add to that, we have definitely increased size, but you may all recall cultural direction setting. It took place from 2017 to 2020. There were various communications about it. I also know that it might be confusing if you are just joining the conversation. We do have pages on our website that address it, but I think part of how we're changing is really kind of double downing on cultural direction setting, which was a process to kind of address challenges within the placement system that camps were feeling, also trying to address convenience camping and how we really stamp that out in Black Rock City. And so you'll notice that our communications will often refer back to that.
Our camp. I just need to grab.
There's a hot mic. Okay, great. It is, it's sort of our guiding posts that we're going to be kind of adjusting policies around. We came up with a revamped placement criteria through cultural direction setting. That weirdness that What's-It was talking about earlier, uniqueness, those are things that we're actually fine tuning and paying a lot more attention to. So, and then also I would say, Burning Man as an organization has been doing a lot of work around sustainability and around diversity, and thinking about how can we make not only Burning Man as an organization more diverse and more sustainable, but how can we engage the community, specifically theme camps, around that work too. And so all those things I think are new things that have emerged over the past few years that we're on a kind of journey around together. And you'll be hearing more about that over the years. Veronica, next question, please.
Given the uncertainty surrounding the ability of folks to acquire tickets in the main sale, we cannot predict whether we'll be over or under 50 people. The placement application asks for camps to divide themselves into 38 to 50 and 51 to 75. How do we manage this uncertainty for purposes of filling out the application? And is there a way you hold accountability for next year's placement if we get placed for a size 40, for example, and only 30 people show up?
I'll answer the first part. Let's see, maybe we can take the second part. In the questionnaire this year, there's actually 2 places we ask for your population. So we ask for a specific number that you have to type in. So it could be 52. And then we also give you a range to select from. The range is more helpful in the sizing of your camp. It's like a population range with a total square footage. But then we also will be looking at that specific number. And we know it's a shot in the dark a little bit. Every year, maybe more people say that they're going to come in the spring at this time, and then people peter out and drop out, and then the opposite happens. I know camps that say, oh, we're going to have 20, and then they like double in size come August. So we understand that. What's most important for us to know is if things change to a point where you need to get more or less space. So I would immediately let us know over email. We do update questionnaires over the summer. So if you need more space and you're cramped in the space you got, we will likely move you, but you have to get it to us as soon as possible so that we can make those changes. Everything that gets pulled out or increases in size impacts many other things. We're all kind of like sardines in there. So we want to make sure that we get you the right spot. What's it? How would you add to that?
I'd add a little bit to that. In just letting camps know, look, we get it this year. Totally strange and not always in a good, weird way. Okay. We're all coming back to this after 2 years off where, a lot of people have moved on with their lives. You have a lot of new people coming in. There are challenges getting tickets. We're aware of this as the placement team. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is stay in communication with us. We're normal burners, as normal as burners can be. So just keep us updated on things. If you got placed for 40 and you only have 30, maybe you don't need as much room. Tell us that, okay? We're not going to be angry. We're not going to be upset. If you only got 30 tickets and your interactivity has to be gentled a little bit, tell us that. We're not going to be upset. I swear. Okay, we made it through the pandemic period. We are so excited that you made it through the pandemic period. We're excited that you are coming back to the dust. We want to make you as successful and fabulous and dust covered as we can possibly make you. This is a conversation. So keep conversating with us. Just keep sending us emails. We'll send you emails back. We'll tell you if there's a problem. There's probably not going to be. We get it. Okay. So much love. And we're going to see you in the dust, no matter what your size. Just keep talking to us.
Thanks, what's it? Bravo.
Yeah, and on the other side, if you have 30 and all of a sudden all your friends got tickets and you need to grow to 50, that's awesome too. Let us know. But with communication, also let us know what those extra 20 people are going to do. It's like, hey, we have 20 more people, which allows us to do this much more, or they're bringing the art car, or now we're going to do these things. Tell us right then and there. It makes us easier for us to start making changes, especially if it's getting closer to when we're making the map, or even if things are mapped, so we can react quickly to requests and we don't have to go back and forth trying to determine, hey, what are these people doing? So yeah, more information is better for us.
Thanks, Bravo. Brady Cat, what you got next?
How is placement thinking about the balance with folks who are bringing contributions like musicians or artists that aren't in camp interactivity or placed art? It does seem like a gap in terms of access and support.
That's a very good question. Papa Bear, do you want to take this one?
Sure. I've been helping with the chat moderation in the background here. So wait, let me rephrase it one more time. So like happening.
How is placement thinking about the balance with folks who are bringing contributions that aren't in placed camps or placed art?
We are thinking about it. There's a lot of thoughts. One of the things is that we look at a theme camp as it's primarily focused on the interactivity within the camp. And that is part of that sort of criteria of what makes a theme camp versus something like an art support camp or a mutant vehicle camp or that kind of thing. But we are fully aware that we don't really have a hybrid model designed, and conversations are happening around that, and we're trying to kind of figure out what that might look like. We won't have an answer for 2022. I'm not sure we'll have an answer for 2023, but it is a discussion that we are continuing to have of how do we figure out what that balance is of people in a camp doing things that aren't in camp interactivity, and how do we account for that and make it allowable without saying, no, you're not doing enough, so you're not a theme camp, so we're not placing you ever again. We do think it's important to figure out that balance. It's just what makes the most sense without suddenly losing lots of space for theme camps, because everyone's switching to a whole different sort of category of camp that doesn't keep the city vibrant and alive within the inside.
Thanks, Popper. Monday, you were shimmying. I don't know if you want to add.
Yeah, I guess because I've just been sending out a lot of emails to camps about kind of this very thing. The whole reason that placement exists is so that camps that do interactivity in their camp have a place to do that interactivity. That's kind of like the origin of why we exist and why we ask you to tell us what you do. So if you're doing a lot of stuff at Burning Man, you're going out and you're playing music at the temple, you're taking an art car out and giving people food and deep play, like that's amazing. And I appreciate what you do, but that's not necessarily stuff that you need saved space for in Black Rock City. And so just to Papa Bear's point, we're trying to figure out what that looks like moving forward for camps that do both stuff in their camp and out of their camp. But just trying to explain a little bit sort of how we have come to where we are and sort of what our thinking about it is moving forward.
And I would say, and part of our thinking is actually getting some more data on this. So if you happen to be someone that falls into this group of people that feels like I should get a spot to reserve my, place to sleep while I'm playing music out in the Deep Playa, document that for us, share that with us after the event. We're going to be at the event this year and kind of roaming around trying to see what is going on, because I think we want to find an appropriate solution for this. And I think that just to be really clear, the art department at one point only permitted and allowed stationary art, but they also have a new category around mobile art, which is a really fantastic way to try to adapt to how people are actually showing up in Black Rock City. And so we want to do the same. It's just going to take a little bit more time and research. And I would just say, if you're an independent artist and, find a way to embed yourself within an existing theme camp, and then we can sort of share that, learn from that process as well. Hepkin?
Like Papa Bear said, we're actually in talks about this to try and figure this out. But one of the things that we've kind of really like the idea of, and this is not for sure yet, but if you're going to go out and do something cool out there in Mid Playa that is outside of camp, take pictures of it this year, because then it's proof that you actually are doing the thing that you're promising that you're going to do. Because that's really another hard thing for us, is how do we verify that this thing you're promising to do that's outside of your camp in the middle of nowhere is actually getting done. So if you're doing it this year, take pictures of it. So next year, if we ask you for pictures of the thing that you do, you can be like, here's my awesome martini bar in the middle of nowhere, and I'm wearing a tux and whatever, setting up lights all over the place. And we're going to see it and say, like, that's proof that's freaking awesome. I want to find that. But just make sure you take pictures this year. And like he said, we haven't figured it out yet, but take pictures this year.
Thank you, Hep. Great questions. I know there's more in the queue. So Brady Cat, what's next?
I have a few layout questions coming. Can you clarify whether a 150 by 150 layout requires a 20-foot fire lane?
The answer is yes. Either 150. Yeah, okay, let's keep it at that.
Okay. The RIDE initiatives have been amazing. How is the placement team looking to increase diversity and inclusion of historically underrepresented communities in 2022 and beyond?
That's also a great question. Some of you may know I wear another hat as a member of our RIDE stewardship group in Burning Man Project. I think that as an organization, we see this as like a multi-pronged effort. So we're asking many teams to think about how are you both like increasing the diversity within your staff and being able to catch different perspectives. And also how are you working, sort of telling the story and working with your constituents around that. So our constituents placement is theme camps. I think that, we're actually asking you that, like, we don't control the gates of who gets to go into your camp. We don't decide who those members are. We don't decide who's in leadership. We don't decide a whole lot. We decide where you go in Black Rock City and we decide your shape and size. But ultimately, we want to put that call back out on the community. There is a question this year, you'll notice in the placement questionnaire that says, Burning Man Project has, is really stepping into thinking and investing in radical inclusion, diversity, and equity. How are you showing up for that? Burning Man Project has an anti-racism pledge that has been published. How are you showing up for that? I would encourage camps to think about that, have conversations amongst your campmates about that. And I don't think we're expecting anyone to completely radically change what they're doing, but we know that this is a process and this is a journey. Some people are really early in it and just learning about like, am I doing anything wrong? Like, and maybe you're not, but there's also folks that are a little bit further along the journey who've been doing this work for many, many years. And so I think it's your chance to tell us that story. Placement typically has been mainly about like, what are you offering and what are you bringing and how are you making interactivity cool? And we still care about that. But we're also saying, we also care about these cultural values that we want to make sure that the entire city shows up for. Radical inclusion has been the number one, principle when they first got published in 2004. And it continues to be something that we want to engage the community to talk about. So rather than saying placement has specific expectations around that at this point, we kind of want to hear from you about what exactly is going on, how are you thinking about it? And then I think as we build up our capacity over time, we'll be able to facilitate more conversations about how we can be more proactive in this. Monday.
Yeah, and I just want to underline a thing that you said, which is it's radical inclusion. It's not just inclusion. And I think about the ways that you can radically change the way that you are doing things to be more inclusive, because it's really the inclusion, it comes from the theme camps, comes from the community, right? It's not coming from anybody who you're going to hear speak during this call today. Like, this is not on us, it's on you. How are you going out of your way to approach people, involve people in your community or outside your community who maybe you normally wouldn't think of? And I think that's a big part of it, is how can we radically change what we're doing, all of us.
Thanks, Monday. It's a great question though. And I would just, the last thing I'll say before we get to the next question is, there are some resources available through Burning Man Hive. That's hive.burningman.org. If you log in with your burner profile, there are several courses in there, as well as discussions going on about this particular topic. So I highly encourage you and your campmates to join in the conversation there. I think that it is something that the next time this is asked, maybe a year from now, we'll have a more sophisticated answer around. But that's kind of where we're at this point. All right, thank you, Brady Cat. Next question.
Our camp is a work support camp for 2 honorarium artists and a mutant vehicle. Do we apply as 3 different camps or ask for a hub? Is there an option for a support village?
Placer, want to take this? KGB, you haven't said much. Can I put you on the spot?
Yeah, if you're a work support camp, you can just be placed as a work support camp. If you also have a mutant vehicle and some artists, it doesn't matter. You can still be placed as a work support camp and just give us the total number of people in the camp, because the size of the camp will be based on that. But unless there are 3 different camps, You don't have to form a village or a hub. If it's just one camp that has 3 different types of groups in it, you can just be one camp and just call yourself a work support camp. It also depends on which group of people is the majority or the most people in the camp. So if you're a mutant vehicle camp and you also have 5 people that volunteer for gate, you don't have to become a work support camp. You can still be a mutant vehicle camp and you have some folks who volunteer. So just pick one, basically, whatever is the majority, and then just give the total number of people and you'll get your space based on that.
I think that's a perfect answer. Bravo, you have something else to add?
I think one thing also to be aware of is that whether you're a art support camp, your honorarium and your art support, you're a mutant vehicle, or whether you're workers that volunteer for Burning Man, for any of those types of camps, they do need to be approved by the manager. Well, so work support needs to be approved by the manager. Art needs to be selected as art, and mutant vehicle has to be picked as a mutant vehicle. So, just be aware of those things. I mean, if a bunch of people work together, all volunteer at Burning Man and want to come together as a camp, it's got to be approved for us to make it work support. So maybe send us the email and we can talk about it. Same with this one, depending, as like KGB said, if it's, or was it Governor, somebody, if it's primarily one thing and there's a little bit of the others, then go with that one. And that's the best one. If you're not sure, that you could always send us an email, placement at, and we can have a conversation to find out what fits you best.
Yeah, and oftentimes, it's not that often, but sometimes we will reclassify camps. Like you might apply as a work support, and based on that conversation, we realize you're actually more of an art support. So the main thing is don't get too caught up on the categories. I think we can always reclassify you if it is, not the right fit. All right, let's take another question.
How will camp placement affect open camping? How far out will camps be placed?
Very good question. So we have, I guess I can give some stats. We had approximately 1,200 camps placed. We had approximately 1,500 camps placed in Black Rock City in 2019. Of those, 1,200 were theme camps. The best way to gauge at this point who's returning is those of you who filled out the SOI, the statement of intent. So thank you everyone for doing that extra step in the process. Typically we have about 10% attrition. This year we had about 5% attrition. So I think we're looking at a pretty full city, which means that I threw out the stats earlier. We had 90 to 91% of Black Rock City placed in 2019. I expect a very similar amount to be placed. I also mentioned earlier that we have expanded some space of the blocks. So we do have some more space. What we're trying to do is preserve the same total amount of open camping that we had in 2019 while still being able to accommodate placed camp. So I hope that explains or answers the question. What we're trying to sort out in the bigger picture over time is thinking about, we've heard a lot from open campers, like, why do we keep getting more and more squeezed each year? It's partly because there's more and more people who want to get placed. So trying to find the right balance of open versus place is an issue. I know some folks are like, well, why don't you just add more streets to the back of the city? That solves the problem. Unfortunately, it doesn't, partly because we are limited in the amount of space we have through the permit that we receive from BLM. We also have cost restrictions. Each time we add an additional street, that's that many more streets to water, which might seem like it's free in Black Rock City, but all that stuff adds up. The fuel has costs, the water has costs, the truck drivers have costs. So all that gets multiplied. And so, we're looking at those numbers through spreadsheets and like trying to sort out what's the most efficient way to do that. So adding more streets doesn't solve the problem, unfortunately. There are kind of other problems developed by that. But what it means is the pie might have to stay relatively the same size, and it's a little bit about how we divide that. But this year I can guarantee that we will have the same amount of open camping that we have had in 2019, which should mean that if everyone fit in 2019, they'll fit again this year. KGB.
Just one thing, we often place all the way to L on the major avenues. So 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4:30, 6, 7:30, 9, 10. But when it's not on one of those avenues, we don't place all the way to K or L. So if you're, if somebody wants to come in as open camping, they'll find plenty of space out there, but not at those major avenues.
Great point. Governance.
One of the things I saw in the chat earlier is look out for the blue flags. If you see blue flags, stay out of them. Because in the sectors that I do which are 9:30 to 10 and 2 to 2:30, I have a lot of big mutant vehicle camps that are out in those places that KGB just mentioned that could be open camping, but they need to be out there for safety requirements and because they're large and they need to be able to get in and out of the city and in and out of their camp and stuff like that. So always watch out for the blue flags. If there's no blue flags, then you're probably okay. If you're not sure, check with the placer. Contact the placement team. We will always help you. So I think that's the best way to do it. But yeah, we definitely KG level was right with the K to L or J to L are generally free-ish.
Yeah, and we've gotten some feedback that people would like to see more open pockets closer up to the Esplanade, and our team will think about that. It's something that's a little difficult to try this year since we have guaranteed that all the camps can return, and so there are, I would say, every now and then some spots open. You just have to kind of get lucky, but yeah, at the very least, start in the back streets, and if you have trouble, contact placement. All right, let's take another question.
What is the best way to incorporate or account for RVs in your camp? We're seeing an increase in the number of folks who want to bring them. Any advice on how to account for RVs in our camp without being annoying?
I see Hep Kid and then Governess.
You can let Governess go first. I'll go second.
Well, what I was going to say, so if you've got a ton of RVs in your camp, and I know a lot of camps like to place them around the perimeter, and I totally get that because you need to kind of protect your private space. Decorate it, make it pretty, because RV walls is actually something that everybody hates, not just placement, but everybody in Black Rock City hates. So try to, put up, decorations to make them, art or whatever, or map out. We've got some, we do have some examples of camps that have placed their RVs. So they create little pods, which actually look quite nice and they don't seem so blocked off from other camps. And I'm happy, I've got some, and the other placement team has examples. We're happy to share them and kind of go, this is how to do it. So it's not looking like an RV wall, because that is something that really kind of breaks my heart, and I think other placers' hearts as well.
Yeah, I was basically going to say the same thing.
Great.
Figure out a way to make some art on the outside of it, even if it's just like lights running down the street, so it's not like a dark street. Even if it's just like rope lights on the ground or something, or string lights in the air that are solar. Those are not expensive and they're pretty easy to deal with. But the best thing is to figure out a way to make it so that there's like, some kind of art in front of it, or, a sheet painted in a mural, or like cutouts that people can put their face in to take silly pictures or whatever it is, just so it doesn't look like a black hole of nothingness but RVs.
All right, I think it's on Monday, then Bravo. Then let's move on to another question.
Yeah, don't do an RV wall. I know they're saying decorate them, but just don't do it, because I hate it in my sector. And if I see you do it, I'm going to come and talk to you about it, because it's terrible. I mean, think about when you walk around the city, if there's just a long stretch of frontage that's just a bunch of RVs, that sucks. It sucks. It's for me as a participant, not just as a placer. So don't do it. Figure out another way to do it. And I would also add, stuff as many people into those RVs as you can, because the fewer RVs you have, the less of a problem you're going to have. So I don't know that there's a not annoying way to deal with it, but be creative is my answer.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, be considerate of your neighbors too. People have generators in their RVs, and I like to park them right along the border between their neighbor and point the generator into the neighbor's space. Don't do that, right? Same go with your generators if you have a generator in your camp. But be considerate, think about what you're doing, and think about those borders with your neighbors and be respectful.
HB, and then let's take another question.
I think part of that question was about, do people that have, or camps that have a lot of RVs get more space because of it? And the answer to that is no. We have sort of a rubric of square footage per person. And if you have a pup tent or an RV, you're going to get the same space.
All right, thank you, KGB. Next question, Brady Cat.
I'm curious if Burning Man or Placement learned anything from their experience at the Renegade Burn.
I see a very naughty head with Monday. Do you want to just take that?
Yeah, with the caveat that I didn't go to the Renegade Burn personally, but I can assure you that I think we maybe had 2 debrief meetings about it because a bunch of our team went. And I think there was a lot of inspiration that we got from it, a lot of lessons that we took away from it, and a lot of things that we wanted to try and incorporate. And so I don't want to, I can't say what those things are. I know because some things are still in development, but I think overall we were just very inspired by it, and that we're going to try and take some learnings from it and incorporate them into what we do.
Bravo.
Yeah, I personally learned that it's fun to go to an event and not actually work. I hadn't done that in a while. So and a few of the other placers that were there too, I think had similar feelings on it. And I think, in all, joking about that, but still it's a good thing to take away for all the camp leads. Talking to other people who had gone, I'd heard that from theme camp organizers. It was nice to just go and not have to plan something and just have fun. And sometimes we focus so much on building our camps and getting things done, especially once we get on playa. I know there's a lot of camp leads here in this. It's like you spend so much time focusing on that, you forget to go have fun. So I think that was one of the key learnings, at least for me individually, is to make sure and have that time to have fun at the event. Makes it so much better.
Thanks, Bravo. And, I would say too, if you read a recent placement newsletter that went out about placement highlights and priorities, we said, take a chill pill. It's a little bit of a tongue in cheek, but, I think part of that was realizing that, and I think we heard this through cultural direction setting too, is people feel like it is an arms race, it's a rat race, it is just an idea of trying to do more and more and bigger and brighter every year. And we really, really want to kind of turn the knobs down to help people realize that, we want to have this be a fun experience for people too. And, driving yourself into the ground to try to do something bigger and bigger is not the way to do it. It's not sustainable for our Earth. And so we want to be able to try to figure out how to steer away from that sort of mentality and encourage people to take some breaks. Breaks are good. Breaks are great. Naps are great. And I think that as we go on, one other thing that, there are several things we took away. We don't have quite the same amount of open space, right? We're limited with the perimeter. There's definitely kind of ideas around thinking about how we create more types of open spaces in Black Rock City as we know it. There's also some thinking, there were some really great applications used around GPS. I know there was the What 3 Words app and Gaia, and those are things we're saying, hey, how could we adapt what we do to our process? You may not see that in 2022, but it's absolutely something we're sort of trying to narrow in on and think about for future years. So just know that, we did take some lessons away. Not all of us were there, only a handful of us were, but we think that's a great, there's great lessons to learn every year. And we're grateful that that happened, because it also showed us that theme camps will show up and still bring stuff. And even without a placement, to expect that. And also, we've done several surveys. There's Burning Man Project did a survey as well. We also heard feedback that they were a little disappointed that there wasn't as much stuff because people were kind of kicking back too. So there's really a balance there that we're trying to find the right kind of middle ground on without also being overly prescriptive because we want people to have a good time. All right, let's go on to the next question. And we have only about, I would say, 6 minutes left, 7 minutes left. So let's try to get a few in.
What makes a placement questionnaire stand out?
Monday, heckin'.
If you can make me laugh, I think that's always great. It's like if you can have a sense of humor about what you're doing, or display passion about what it is you're doing, and clarity in the smallest amount of words, because we have to read literally hundreds of these. That would be my advice. Like, make us laugh, show us your passion, be very clear in what you're doing, and don't write in a Russian novel about it.
Hepkin, Popper.
What he said, be passionate, talk about what you're going to do, and like exactly what he said. Also, don't tell us what you did last year. Don't tell us your philosophy in life. Don't try to be funny if you're not actually funny. Just be you. Don't think that like you have to make us laugh to get placed. Like, if that's, show us your personality, whatever that personality is. If you're like a huge geek, there are lots of us in the placement team that are huge geeks. So be your geeky self, be your funny self, be whoever your true self is. Don't try and be whatever for us. Be authentic and be passionate about what you're doing. That's what we really want to see.
Thanks, Hep. Popper, anything else to add?
Yeah, well, I mean, the funny one was one of it, but I do. I was also going to say, like, we sometimes usually see camps writing in their entire history at Burning Man since 1847, and it's just a lot of paragraphs that we don't really need to read about, because we're really curious about what you're doing this year, not what you've been doing forever and ever and ever and ever, and how you met. But I also want to say that we understand that not everyone's great at filling out forms, and not everyone's great at describing what they do in the written form, and so we kind of generally do notice when something's a little bit missed there. We will reach out to you to help clarify and figure it out. Don't be scared about making sure we are super impressed. And that first thing, if like you have a hard time getting your vision on paper, we will check in with you to clarify and figure out what exactly it is you're trying to bring.
All right, I'll take governance and Hepkitten, and then I'll try to take a few more questions and maybe more rapid fire with those.
Yeah, so just to be quick, yeah, just what everybody said, but it's what you're actually doing and the detail of what you're doing. I had a camp a few years ago that their questionnaire interactivity only included the words dancing and music, and that was it. And that's not enough. We need to know what it is, what, and the detail of what you're planning to offer participants at Black Rock City.
Thanks, governance. Hepkin, do you want to add to that, or? Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing too, concise detailing, because what we like, tell us what you're going to do, but like as concise as you can, because like Monday said, we read a lot of these, but also don't assume that the team that is reading your questionnaire is the same one that you know from last year. Like, sometimes we will switch, we get questionnaires from different sectors, and it will be 2 sentences, and I will be like, if you can't fill out this interactivity section properly, I don't have faith you can run a theme camp, because that's really freaking difficult. And a lot of times when we see that, it's because this person has a personal relationship with the sector they've been placed in for years, so they don't feel it necessary to give us the information. But every year you should assume that it's different placers, because we always have new people on the team, and you should always assume that the theme camp placer who's placing your camp or potentially placing your camp does not actually know you.
All right, Braddy Cat, let's fire a few away.
Has there been discussion about how to deal with space required for solar panels? Deal with the space. I think it's just about preference for lowering your footprint.
Hepkin.
I think this is also related to another question that was asked in chat that was about, what if you need more space? Because for solar panels, you're going to need more space, and you're going to need specific lighting that's not behind a tower or something like that. So what you need to do, if you need more space for whatever, for your solar panels, for your stage, whatever, explain it to us in your questionnaire. There's a section that says rejection of square footage. Put in there like, hey, our solar panels actually take up this much space, which means we need more space than you would normally expect for a camp our size, but we're putting solar panels in, and please don't put them in the shade of a tower because we need Eastern light or whatever it is that solar panels need. Just let us know, communicate with us, and we'll do our very best to help you out.
Yeah, and we're always looking at camp layouts to sort of see exactly how you're using your space. So I think if you can reflect those panels, we will understand what's going on. So, all right, let's take another question.
We're returning camp, but considering a name change and theme change. How does this play into the placement decision?
Monday.
I just want to answer this because I used to run a theme camp that would change what we did every single year based on what the theme was. And like, that's awesome. We're looking at what you're doing this year. So if you want to change your name, that's cool. It's connected to your record from previous years where no, you're the same people. If you're doing something completely different, describe what it is that you're doing that's completely different. We're excited to see that. And we're basing, where we put you based on what you're doing for this year, not on anything that you have done previously. I hope that answers that.
Great. Let's take maybe 2 more questions and then we're going to start wrapping up.
Have you used your placement experience in the default world?
Oh, that's a fun question. Governess.
Definitely. In the default world, I'm a delivery manager, and basically Burning Man is just a gigantic project management job with fire and heavy equipment. So I've learned so much from being a placer that I equate back to what I do in the real life, that it's just unbelievable. I can't even begin to explain it all.
Yeah, I used to serve on the entertainment commission in San Francisco, and a big part of what we had to deal with was like noise complaints from neighbors. And if you've been to Black Rock City, there's a lot of noise, and we think about how to resolve those, partly about actually where things are located, but oftentimes it's about the negotiation process and the personal touch you have for that. And so I know that's something I've taken away in the real world to say, how can we apply how we do conflict mediation and neighborly issues out into the real world, and that there's a lot to learn in Black Rock City. All right, let's take one more question, and then I will start transitioning us into the last part of today's talk.
We are a smaller camp of 10, but with the 25-foot safety perimeter, it creates a need to request a 100 by 100 layout to accommodate this giant 50-foot circle. We are also sharing resources. This seems like a giant circle of space waste. Is this okay?
I would say if you're a small camp asking about, there are actually, I know that there's been some chatter on Facebook and other places around fire safety and who needs to put a fire lane and how big of a space you need. One, we're going to be trying to clarify that really clear to all people very soon. I have a meeting on Monday to get that really solid. The 20-foot fire lane is only required for camps that are larger than, we're 150 by 150 or larger. So just know that part of the factoring of that is thinking about, can a vehicle safely, an emergency vehicle, fire vehicle, go safely into your camp, and how long is their hose? It's 100 feet long to be able to, kind of spray away and put out fires. The other thing too is we have new additional mapping volunteers. We're going to be looking at if we cluster several small camps together, you all do not need a fire lane, but making sure that our blocks become fire accessible. So I think that's the best way you can answer that for now. I would not encourage people to put a fire lane around your entire camp if you're not larger than 150 by 150. If you're trying to create a hub, I would also say negotiate that with your hub mates, who, can you combine fire lanes? I know that that's a big part of why people might be forming hubs. And I think if it's simply a fire lane that you're trying to share, we have additional supports this year. I'm just going to lean back on that so you may hear from not just the people who see on the screen today, come back at you and say, hey, we actually need you to reposition a little bit, or we can give back some space because we don't need that fire lane. We've figured out a way to share between two. So that's a little bit of how we'll answer that, but please stay tuned for more clarity. We will probably email out more information very soon about that. Bravo, and then Papa Bear.
I think that question might have been pertaining to field storage, since you have to have a radius around it, and what are smaller camps need to do for the field storage. I'm not going to answer that. I don't know if you have an answer. I just wanted to point that out. I don't think it was fire lane related.
I'm sorry. I think I misunderstood then. I can answer that as well, but Popper, did you want to take that or?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that we're working out is around that kind of new requirements popped up on the web pages that says 21 plus gallons of liquid fuels requires a fire lane. And just to clarify, that's not propane. Liquid fuels only, like diesel and gasoline. Propane is not counted in that. So if you have 21 plus gallons of liquid fuels in your camp, it is a fire lane. But that's the conversation that Level is talking about having, is to figure out what to do about that with smaller camps and clarifying that with you all in the future.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do is actually look at the way placers are laying out small camps, looking, and then we have another layer of review where we have a couple of our staff looking at the configuration of them all with each other. And then they might be writing back to you to say, hey, actually, please put your generator or your fuel storage at this corner, because what we're trying to do is consolidate several of them amongst small camps. So I think, you can create your own hub to try to make that, work out. If you don't do that yourselves, through our placement process, we actually will be also looking at that to suggest some movement. So just please work with us when we do contact you about that. It's to try to basically make everyone's lives easier. So I know it's a little bit complex. Just know that we are aware of that conundrum and we'll have really clear instructions in a few weeks' time. Okay, we're a little over time. I know that there's probably a lot more questions that people have. I would encourage you all to just email us at placement@burningman.org if you have more questions. Again, our regular way that we sort our emails is put your camp name in the subject line, put your sector in the subject line. I know folks are putting sectors in front that they're hoping to get into. That's fine. Generally, we do it by the ones you were last placed in. The next part of this is actually to go into 6 breakout rooms so that you can meet your neighbors and meet other folks who are part of your sector. You are able to also bounce around sectors. So maybe you're, polysectorists or whatever, you can go and look for that, jump around. It's only going to be for about half an hour, so there's not tons of time, but we hope some connections can be made. The last thing I will say is we have the Camp Symposium is coming up on April 30th. Please plan on attending. The registration is now live through kindling.burningman.org. It is free this year, though we do have, do always welcome donations. We're suggesting anywhere from 10 to 20 bucks. Yeah, stay tuned for more information. We have a wonderful team of camp support who actually puts on these talks too, that are behind the scenes, making that a wonderful event for you all. So April 30th, it's going to be all day, 10 o'clock to about 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific time. And I'll also say there is a feedback form. I think Epiphany just shared it in chat. Please fill that out. It always helps us make these go better. So yeah, I think we're going to move people into the breakout rooms. If you are unfamiliar with how to do that, on the bottom bar of your Zoom, you should see breakout rooms. Please go ahead and join those in 10 seconds. But before you do that, feel free to unmute yourselves and say goodbye. Thank you all for being a wonderful audience and asking us really great questions. We love doing these.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Hi, everybody.
Bye. Rock on.
See you home.
See you in the dust. See you in the breakout room. And then